I remember going to car shows as a kid back in the 90s. There was always that one car that stood out from the rest. The same is still true today. That one car is the Toyota Supra, which gathers just as much, if not more, attention today than it did back in the 90s. I met Cody at a Cars and Coffee event back in 2023. As I got to know him, I was in awe of the work he had done on his '95 Toyota Supra. This is the story of a true barn find. Follow along to see how he has transformed this JDM legend into what it is today.
Well, here she is in her prime. Did a lot of stuff to get it to where she is now. She did not look like this at all when I first got her. She was a complete barn find, sat for 11 years, non-running. Back when she was busted, about 4 to 6 inches of standing water and the whole entire cab sitting inside, rotting away. But luckily, she didn't deteriorate as much as we thought she did for 11 years sitting. Everything was a work in progress, from building it, taking all the interior out, getting it all refurbished. I did everything myself in-house, did all the interior refurbishing, put everything back to stock manufactured look. I did all the fabricating, all the welding, powder coating, Cerakoting, all the custom fabrication, the engine build, putting this motor back together to look like it does now. Also to speak, this is the 15 Air Edition gold-plated special edition Supra they made in 1995. They only made 412 of these with the hardtop, so it's a pretty rare edition. Plus all the stuff that I've done to it, it's non-replaceable at this point. When I was probably around like 6, 7 years old, when I saw this car first coming down my road in Wilmington, Silver Lake Road, Monkey Junction. It was mind-blowing to me because I knew what the car was and I wanted to confirm that with my dad. So I asked him and he said that's what it was, and I told him that I was gonna own that one day. And he said, good for you. And time went on. I grew up, graduated high school, went to college. There was one thing I wanted to do when we got back to Wilmington after graduating college. I wanted to see if this car was still there. So we went for a walk and the car was still there after this long duration time when I last saw it. So luckily the guy was still there. Jason Mullen was his name. So me and Jason talked. After the discussion of talking back and forth, he felt that I was the person that he wanted to sell the vehicle to. Because the one thing that stuck to this day was, wouldn't you love to see this car back on the road and not sitting where it is? And he said, absolutely, 100%. I said, well, I'm the man for the job. In 2013, I picked up this car for $6,500 non-running. Put some love into it. Blood, sweat, and tears within a month, a couple weeks, not even a month. I had this car running, driving it up and down the road in Wilmington, the way it was. NA, 2J, W58 transmission, NA rear end, naturally aspirated. Loved the car, didn't want to change anything outside of the car except for some slim things. But I really wanted to focus on the motor, the look of the motor, the power of the motor, the transmission capability, and just being able to put into something that I loved so much into it to come out the way it did. It really shows. It really shows. Built, not bought. 100%. And I'm very happy to be here and still have the car and be able to cherish it with the friends and family that I have with, and to be able to enjoy with it. And go to events, go to car shows, plan on, going out, bringing my daughter, getting her involved with this, getting her to understand what the car is, the icon of the car, everything about it, everything about the community about cars. It's a very good thing to do, car-related community. So I just really hope I can get her involved in that, and that one day down the road, when it's time, that I can pass along the car down the road. We're gonna be talking about the powder coating. We did some powder coating. I did the powder coating on the cold side turbo housing, the intake tube that comes in for the intercooler for the cold air, the intercooler charge pipe, all glossy black. all glossy black. Coming over to the throttle body, all glossy black. All the piping is done 3-inch intercooler piping, going out of the turbo, coming in, coming out about 3.5 inches. And then we also did the catch can assembly, glossy black. I built that custom in-house. I did all the build, fabbing. I made a actual box to see it in there before we actually made it. So we made a template. So we painted we powder coated the valve covers glossy white as well to show with the turbo glossy white. Everything was done in-house, powder coated wise. I actually built my own oven, sheared all the metal, drilled all the holes, did all the cutting, did all the fabricating that needed to be, all the wiring in the box, did everything in here. It was a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of early mornings, late nights trying to get this done. So I had a vision, and this is what I created. It's 4x4 by 6 feet tall. Powder coating is only about like 25 minutes of surface. Surface reaches temperature around like 400, 425. But Cerakoting needs to be about like 500 degrees surface temperature to be cured properly for over an hour. I enjoyed it, and I loved doing every second of what I did for the powder coating side. I'm very happy how it came out. All right, now we're jumping into the Cerakote and the custom fabricating work that went into this car. So I started everything with bare 304 stainless, did all the welding, built the turbo manifold from scratch, in-house. Also built the whole 3-inch straight pipe, stainless steel, all the way from turbo neck back, all 3 inches, done in-house, custom made exhaust system. And also made a custom dump screamer pipe with a teardrop on the bottom underneath of it to go straight down to the floor. I did all that in-house, and I also Cerakoted it as well. That was a massive process going into that. After building something like that and wanting to show off the turbo manifold and also the exhaust turbine housing, also the downpipe. They all stand a lot of heat, so to be able to do something like that, we need to use Cerakote. Cerakote was a very good option to go into this because it's rated for over 1800 Fahrenheit. To have it withstand the temperature and also help the turbo system and the downpipe to hold that heat in as much as it can to not disperse the heat out to where it could be bad on the motor aspect of getting everything so hot, but also keeping the look of everything. We also painted the calipers glossy white too to off-center the valve cover and the turbo so that not all the white was inside the engine bay. We also wanted to show it off on the calipers, on the front and the rear. But also too, since this is the 15 Air Edition gold plated special edition Supra, we also wanted to resemble the gold on the calipers too. So I had my wife, Tiffany Detwiller, make these vinyl stickers that went onto the caliper that we were able to paint with it with the clear coat that went over it to withstand the temperatures and the abuse on it. And we also did the rears to resemble the series of the car of the A80 Supra. When this motor came out, it was very strong at its potential. The actual gentleman in Japan had a gentleman's agreement to only make the 2Js only 325 horsepower. There was a rule going above 300. So they kept the agreement, so they went above and beyond on the 2J to make it even stronger, to even withstand and be reliable. And they proved it through the years and durations of people getting them, finding out about them, what they could do, what they couldn't do with them. Let's talk about what I've actually done to my motor on the 2JZ. 2JZ GTE VVTi twin turbo motor imported from Japan. It had about 60K kilometers. It's about 30,000 miles on the actual motor that came and imported from Japan to the United States. Tore down to a short block, went through everything. Everything looked very good. I couldn't have been any more happier than what I saw when I got the actual car itself. Went through the valve train, went through the head, went through everything in the crankshaft. Everything still looked good. So I went on from there. I refurbished everything, put new OEM front oil pump, front seals, cam seals, crank seal, upgraded the crank damper to an AMEP dampener, went all ARP head studs, and then I went and did port and polishing on the heads. I did all port and polishing in all 6 combustion chambers. I polished all 24 valves, lapped all 24 valves. Spent many hours of my time after work hours doing that and getting everything right before I sealed everything up. Then after we did all the lapping of the valves, we went on to the actual springs and retainers, put Brian Crowder 272 duration camshafts, titanium springs and retainers in the actual head, and then we assembled it. We assembled everything with an OEM head gasket, and then that kind of wrapped up all the head system. And then, you know, it's got NGK iridium spark plugs, UZ coils. I mean, the UZ coils are rated for over 1,000 horsepower. They're good enough for what I'm looking for my application right this second. So to be able to provide the fuel delivery for the power output that you need for the 2Js, you need a very high volume pump. So one of the pumps that a lot of people use are the Hellcat pumps now, the 525 Hellcat pump. I have 2 525 Hellcat pumps because I have the availability to be able to hang them in the back of my fuel tank with a 3-tree fuel pump hanger. That provides a big redundancy of fuel to my injectors. The injectors are 1700 cc injectors, ID injectors, rated for over 1400 horsepower. The pumps are rated each 900 horsepower each. So you can do the math, each pump, 2 pumps, by the way. Maybe down the road, I plan on going to a 3rd pump when I do something else. Maybe I might get a Dart machinist block from them for a 2J, the new revised 2J. And then it's rated for over 2,500 horsepower. I don't know. We'll see where this goes, honestly. I did all the fuel lines, built all the fuel lines with Viton fuel lines, all NA fuel lines, radium fuel filters from Radium Engineering, stainless steel. The best stuff that you could use to make sure that you have the adequate fuel delivery. And also too, when you go into the realm of fuel delivery, you also want to think of a flex fuel sensor too, to be able to have that standalone ability to the fuel to be recognized by the flex fuel sensor to see what percentage of ethanol that it has in your fuel tank. That allows you to regulate the boost curvature of where you want to, where your boost want to be at. Your traction control, your boost levels. With a high rolling boost, you need to have about an 86% ethanol or higher at that point. To pull it onto your tuner, you need to stay in touch with them and know what your boundaries are 100%. Because if you don't, then you can ruin the motor and everything if you abuse it. I run VPX 98 from VP Racing. We tune it down to about 86% ethanol by my tuner by Vlad. We made a phenomenal amount of power on 93 pump gas. On 19 pounds, made 650 to the rear wheels. And then on 86% ethanol, we made 855 to the rear wheel, so it's 1,000 horsepower to the crank. I couldn't be any more happier than how it came out than what we see here, guys. I mean, different variations, different people will do it different ways, but this is how I wanted to see it, and this is how I wanted to have it. I really hope you all love it as much as I do, and the love, sweat, and tears that I have put into this car from where it was in 2013 to where it is in 2023 now.